River is like a living and breathing museum of what was, what is, and everything else in between. Now let's start way back when the Chicago River was. It comes from an Algonquin word, Shikakwa. Now Shikakwa roughly translates to the stinky onion. I know, right? I know. You know, Manhattan may have the great apple, but here in Chicago we have the stinky onion. And who's really winning here? I like to think that we are, but that's because I'm biased. Now let's talk a little bit more about history, right? It says right in front of us, who found Chicago? Who is the founding father of Chicago? And that is a man by the name of Jean-Baptiste Point-du-Sable. Now, Jean-Baptiste Point-du-Sable was a black man, a Haitian man from Haiti. He moved here in the late 1770s. And he fell in love with Kiti Hawa, a Potawatomi woman. Now, together they ran a bustling trading post, believe it or not, where the Apple Store now is. 21st century modernism. There is a bust of Jean-Baptiste Point-du-Sable right in front of it, though, just to keep it, you know, we're still giving nods to history and where we came from, right? But there are a lot of things with his name on it, paying homage, right? So over here to our right, this plot of land will be in the future, Jean-Baptiste Point-du-Sable Park. Right in front of us, we have this beautiful bridge called Lakeshore Drive. Lakeshore Drive's official name is Jean-Baptiste Point-du-Sable Lakeshore Drive. I bet you can't say it 10 times in a row because I know I cannot. Now, exactly. Now, we also have the Jean-Baptiste Point-du-Sable Black History Museum and Education Center. And we also have the DuSable Bridge, which I will point out. It'll be one of the bridges that we go under very soon. So I'll be pointing it out later on in the tour. Now, I would not be surprised if in the future we had even more things with his name on it, like highways or even schools, parks, etc., right? Now, guys, if you guys brought phones, if you guys brought cameras, this is your opportunity to take them out. As we pass underneath Lakeshore Drive, it'll be like a curtain rising up to the beautiful Chicago River. I'm gonna be hopping off of the mic here in a second and allow you guys to take some pictures without me having to be in them. So, the second I come back, we'll start talking all about buildings, though. So enjoy the beautiful curtain rising up, and then very soon we'll start talking all about buildings. It's absolutely gorgeous. Now let's start talking about buildings, though. Over here to our left, we have 3 wavy towers, all together in a big group hug. You'll see how they vary in colors from blue to green to white. This is the St. Regis, everybody. Now the St. Regis is our 3rd tallest building in our skyline, standing at 1,198 feet tall. If you prefer the metric system, it is 365 meters tall. It is our 3rd tallest building in our skyline, and guys, it is the tallest building in the world designed by a female architect. I know, right? Pretty exciting stuff. Her name is Jeannie Gang. Jeannie Gang is a native Chicagoan. We absolutely love her here. She leads a studio called Studio Gang. I will point out another Studio Gang building very soon. Now, guys, Jeannie Gang is a genius. She won the Great MacArthur Award in 2011, and we'll talk about that very soon. But one real quick thing. The taller the building is, the more the building will sway. Like so. We don't want the building swaying too fast, because what happens? People inside of the building get sick. We also don't want the building to not sway at all, because what happens? The building snaps in half. We want to keep that swaying just right. So you might be asking yourself, Liam, you just called Jeannie Gang a genius, but if I look all the way up, on the 85th and 86th floor, there is nothing. It is completely empty. So if she's such a genius, how come she forgot 2 floors? I tell you, she is such a genius, and that is our first anti-sway technology. It is called a blow-through floor. Wind is able to enter the building no matter the direction that it comes in, allowing the building to keep swaying just right. Kind of looks like magic, a magician distracting the wind. Now into another building though, coming up right in front of us and to our left, behind the James Hardie and behind this triangle building that looks like a giant Toblerone chocolate bar. We're going to look at the building that is right behind that. As you can see, it has white and wavy balconies. That is the Aqua Hotel and Residence. Now, the Aqua Hotel and Residence was the tallest building in the world designed by a female architect before Jeannie Gang beats her own record. That is right. Both buildings are by Jeannie Gang and Studio Gang. It is about 875 feet tall, but who's counting, right? Now, as you can see, all the balconies vary in width, and that is on purpose. They carefully studied which spots needed more protection from the sun and which spots had the best views in town. So you might have a very wide balcony, but maybe you and your fellow neighbors needed a little bit more protection from the sun. But maybe it's the opposite. Maybe you have a very small balcony, and maybe you have the best view of the Chicago River and Chicago herself, right? Let's talk about another building though, right in front of us and to our right. There is this building that has a giant clock tower all the way at the top over to our right. It has two towers, right? Not just one. Kind of looks like a giant cake topper. This is the Ripley building. Now the Ripley building is modeled after La Giralda in Sevilla, Spain, which makes the building a Spanish Revival building. The tower with the clock tower itself was built in 1928. The building to the right was built in 1931, and the bridge that unites them on the 14th floor was built in 1934. As you can see, it varies in colors from white and cream colors, around 6 different shades, all making the building look a lot taller than it actually is. Now, it is cladded in about 250,000 terracotta tiles. The terracotta tiles are very fireproof. You'll quickly learn here in Chicago, we are very paranoid about our fires. Now, terracotta tiles are very delicate as well, so we have to hand wash them once a year. Let that serve as a reminder for everybody on board to wash your delicates by hand. But hopefully not once a year, y'all, because that's nasty. Now the name Wrigley might sound familiar to all of you, because again, we have Wrigleyville, we also have Wrigley Field, home of the Chicago Cubs. If you guys disagree with me, I'm the person on the mic, so I can say, go Cubs! Now, it is also the same name as Wrigley Chewing Gum Company, Juicy Fruit, Extra Gum, all back to the same man, William M. Wrigley Jr. Now guys, this right here, we're going under a DuSable Bridge. Jean-Baptiste DuSable once again. Now I bet you can't guess the name of the building that is going to come up right behind me. It is in fact the Trump Tower. Now the Trump Tower is about 1,388 feet tall, making it the second tallest building in our skyline. It is 423 meters tall. Now, this is a style of architecture we're going to talk about a lot on this tour. It is called contextualism. It is a site-specific building, which means that the building only makes sense right here in Chicago in that particular spot. What exactly is it putting in context, you may ask? I'll tell you. You see, the first patio offset right here to the right is a nod to the Wrigley building that we were just talking about. Second patio offset right there in the middle is a nod to the Jewelers building that is coming up over here on our left, has a giant dome all the way at the top. Now, the Jewelers building might seem familiar to a lot or all of you because it shows up in Batman Begins as Batman kneels over Gotham City. So for the very first time, welcome everybody to Gotham City. Now, third patio offset right there, almost at the top, is a nod to a building that is coming up over here to our right, the AMA Plaza. Now, the AMA Plaza is a black box building that's showing up over here to our right. A style of architecture called Black Box Modernism. We're going to talk about Black Box Modernism also quite a bit on this tour. This one was designed by Ludwig Mies van der Rohe. Now, Ludwig Mies van der Rohe was a professor of architecture. He was the man who coined the phrase, less is more. Now, that was the last building that he designed before he passed away in 1969. But during his years as a professor, he had a student of his by the name of Bertrand Goldberg. And Bertrand Goldberg was like, okay, Ludwig, I see your straight lines, but there are no straight lines in nature, so there will be no straight lines in my buildings. So coming up on our right is, in fact, Marina City. Marina City kind of looks like two giant corn on the cobs. If you speak Spanish, Marina City coming up to our right kind of looks like two giant elotes. But again, that's just me. Now, Bertrand Goldberg thought of himself somewhat of a social scientist, and by this I mean the river was disgusting, and nobody wanted to live here or buy it. And so he said, I'm going to build a city within a city where people can live a full life without having to leave it, and we can still work towards our dream of seeing the river revitalized. And so he did. So right in front of us, over here to our right, we have the marina here below, the restaurant right above it, the parking lot also right on top of the restaurants. All the way on the top, you see the apartments. The apartments are Pizza Slice Shades, which is an interior designer's nightmare. Now, Marina City also includes the House of Blues, which artists like Chappell Roan have been known to perform there. It also includes a bowling alley and dry cleaners. I know, a lot of cool stuff. Now, if you're wondering if you're able to drive up there in the parking lot, the answer to that is no. If you're wondering if that's because they're worried for your safety, the answer to that is yes. We don't want nobody falling into the Chicago River. If you're wondering, did they say that because somebody has fallen into the Chicago River? The answer to that is yes. You can check it out on, I know, you can check it out on YouTube. A film, 1980s, The Hunter. There was a car chase all the way up to the 17th floor, and a car nosedived into the Chicago River. But don't worry, everybody. Everybody was safe. There was nobody inside of that car, but it did make a huge splash, and I think that that's all that matters. Movie magic. Now coming up right in front of us and to our right, this is the grandfather of buildings on our tour from 1914. This is the Reed Murdoch. Now the Reed Murdoch, everybody, I have a vote to pick with it. And that is that the building is asymmetrical. It has 5 bays of windows to the left of the clock tower, 6 bays of windows to the right. Once upon a time, the building was symmetrical, but then they cut off the side of the building right in front of us to expand LaSalle Street, that we can clearly see here in front of us. Later on, they redid the facade in hopes that nobody would notice that the building was asymmetrical. But guess what, guys? I noticed. And because I noticed, so must you. Because if it bothers me, it has to bother you. You're welcome. Now it is the home of Whirlpool Corporation and Encyclopedia Britannica. I know, they're still around. What do they do? I'm not sure. But I've heard it's like Google on a book. I'm still doing my Googling about it. I'm also saving you guys some time because it took me 7 tours when I started this job to realize that the building was asymmetrical. So again, I'm just saving you guys some time. Now coming up right in front of us and to our right, not the Chicago School, but the building that is over to its left, still to our right. This building is extremely, extremely wide. This is the Merchandise Mart. Now the Merchandise Mart is a style of architecture we're also going to be talking about a lot on this tour. Has deep dark inset windows and long vertical lines. Now we're officially on Wolf Point, the point of the river where all 3 branches coincide. We were just on the main branch. By main branch, we'll come back later on as we make our way back to the docks. Over to our left, we have the South Branch. Hi, South Branch. We'll go there very, very soon. Don't worry, friends. Let's focus over here to our right, to the North Branch. Right in front of us, though, real quick, as we make this turnaround, I like to point out this building. Because, yeah, you're so right, friend, because it does indeed look like a giant Hot Pocket. It also looks like a giant McDonald's apple pie. This is River Point, everybody. And that's the only reason why I like to point it out. Now, the beautiful art piece right in front of it that is red is by a Spanish artist named Santiago Calatrava. But again, that's really the only reason why I like to point it out. Now, guys, if you guys thought that the Reed Murdoch was the grandfather of buildings on our tour, because it is from 1914, I'm about to present to you the great-grandfather of buildings on our tour from 1898. It is the Fulton House. Now, Fulton House is over right in front of us. It's going to be popping up to our left. It is salmon colored. As you can see, it has balconies on the exterior of it. And as we get closer and closer, you'll be able to see that it has like nautical designs on the exterior of it. Now, let's talk a little bit about Fulton House. Fulton House, when it opened, was a giant meat freezer. It was a giant meat freezer for the meat packing industry right here in Chicago. Later on, when they went to renovate the building, they had to thaw the building out. And it took about 6 months to actually thaw the entire building. And when they did that, they discovered that the walls were about 4 feet thick and filled with matted horsehair and cork. It's kind of disgusting. But it's also 1800 insulation. Yeah, I know, right? But don't worry. Thanks to Fulton House, now all other buildings are officially vegan. It is now an apartment building. You can now live at Fulton House, everybody. Now when they renovated the building, you can see that they added a nautical design on the exterior of the building. I had a bone to pick with Reed Murdoch, and I have a bone to pick with Fulton House, and that is, they started the renovations, and they said, stars on this column, stars on this column as well, stars on this one, and then when they went to finish it, they said, nah, I'm good. I'm not gonna finish it. I kinda got bored. All the rest of them were enough. Now this is thanks to a man named Harry Weiss who added the nautical design. Talking about Harry Weiss, though, right in front of us and to our left as well. This is the River Cottages. Now the River Cottages are a postmodernist building. We'll talk more about that very, very soon. But triangles are all knots to sails on a sailboat. Thank you. And the circles are also knots to portholes on a sailboat. Now to give you guys an idea, each unit goes for $2.25 million. But don't worry guys, it includes its own dock. Now again, as I mentioned, in this postmodernist building, the most irrational response to this. There's this building that looks like a Y. It also kind of looks like a tuning fork. This is 150 North Riverside. Now 150 North Riverside has a very, very small base you'll be able to notice, right? And that is because it's dealing with 2 things. Number 1, over to your right, you'll be able to notice these circles. These circles are exhaust fans for the Metro Train and Amtrak trains that are running right underneath these buildings and behind that wall. So the base of 150 North Riverside couldn't start too far back because why? It would ruin someone's morning commute. We couldn't do that. And if your next thought is, but that's okay, Leon, because maybe we can push the base of the building closer to the river. And I tell you, yeah, technically, but Chicago has a zoning law for all new buildings. A 30-foot setback, allowing that space in between to remain for the public. Think, for example, what we can see with the Riverwalk, right? That is exactly what we're trying to replicate over with new buildings, really, and you'll be able to see it over here with 150 North Riverside. Because again, the river is for everybody. If we were to have buildings closer to the river, it would be like privatizing the river, and that's not what we're trying to do. So you'll be able to notice over here to your right, 150 North Riverside, with this 30-foot setback, still allowing that space in between to remain for the public and for people to walk over to the station, right? You'll be able to see how they're still taking advantage of all that airspace with slanted windows, right? You can look up, take a very weird selfie, or wave hello to your evil twin, as I always do. Hi, evil Liam. And you can also see how they're taking advantage of that airspace by having the restaurant right here below the building itself. Now, this was a challenge that was accepted by Getch Partners. Getch Partners did 150 North Riverside, and after doing that, they were like, we can do anything. I'd like to ask, and you guys don't have to disclose, but we do have any Bank of America cardholders on board? No? Wow, and nobody gets a building, and that's okay. But coming up over here to our left is the Bank of America building. Now, the Bank of America building opened in 2020. So it is very mindful about diseases and illnesses, right? Because it opened during the height of COVID. All surfaces are antimicrobial, and you can call your elevator via your phone. But you get to see what Getch Partners was doing, right? 30-foot setback once again in action, 4th floor and up, being held up by, I guess, what you can call robotic chicken feet. Or tridents, whichever you guys prefer. And then they have the Cafe by the River below, right? Again, taking advantage of that airspace in between. Now guys, this is my personal favorite part of the tour. We are traveling back in time. All of the following buildings are in chronological order. Thank you, architecture gods. No, it did not happen on purpose. It just sort of happened. Welcome, everybody, to Art Deco Alley. Over to your left, you have the Civic Opera building, but let's focus over here to your right. You have the 2 North Riverside Plaza. 2 North Riverside Plaza was the home of the Chicago Daily News. Iconic newspaper. So the exterior of the building is a true nod to journalistic history, from hieroglyphs all the way to the Gutenberg press. The building is shaped like a sphinx. That is on purpose. It is a nod to Egyptian discoveries that were happening at the time. And you get to see that 30-foot setback in action way before it was even a true zoning law. So I guess we can all admit that they were kind of ahead of their time. Now guys, guess what else happened in the late 1920s and early 30s? The stock market crashed. The Great Depression. So for about 20 years after these beautiful buildings opened, we didn't build any more buildings. We couldn't afford it. We were quickly traumatized by our need to learn how to budget. So 25 years or so after that, welcome everybody to the 50s and 60s with Gateway Center number 1 and Gateway Center number 2. Now, as you can see over here to your right, you can have a clear view of the Amtrak train and Metro trains. And their buildings are called gateways because they are, in fact, the gateways to Union Station, right? Now, these are black box modernist buildings, like we saw earlier with the AMA Plaza, but these are not designed or owned by Ludwig Mies van der Rohe. These are by SOM, Skidmore, Owings, and Merrill. You'll hear that name a lot around the city. They have a lot of structures in our town. Now, with Art Deco, the beauty of the building came from its lavishness, how pretty it could be of the exterior of the building. Now, however, with black box modernism, the beauty comes from its practicality, right? The more practical the building is, the more beautiful the building is. And black box modernism, it is cheap and repeatable architecture, which is why we have over 40 of them in our city. And I guess they said, you know what guys, 50s and 60s, let's spice things up. And then they said hello to the 80s, to a white box. It's not called white box modernism, it is called international style. And it is called international style because theoretically you can put this building up, put it anywhere else in the world, and the building will still make sense. There's a legend that says that a lot of travelers and explorers at the time were sleeping inside international style buildings, waking up and not knowing what part of the world they were in because all of the buildings looked exactly the same. Thank you, Gateway Center number 3. Now we're saying bye-bye to the 70s all together and hello to the 80s right in front of us and to our right to this building that has a curve to her, has blue and green windows. That is Gateway Center number 4 with contextualism. The curve and the color of the windows are all nods to the Chicago River below and the beautiful sky above. Woo! Congratulations, guys. You've made it back to 2025 after your travel back in time. But if you find yourselves lost, confused, and you don't know where you are, fret not, because 300 South Walker has your back. Has a giant 2-scale map of the Chicago River. They discovered that we were not talking about it on our tours. They got upset, and they paid $800,000 to put themselves on the map. We can judge them, but we're talking about it now, so I guess it worked. If you're like me, you close your eyes and you can see the Joker driving a bus filled with cash down the wrong way down Van Buren Street in the dark night. That's right, everybody. Coming up to our right is, in fact, Gotham City Bank. Technically, you're not wrong. For the very last time, welcome everybody to Gotham City, because that was Wayne Enterprises. But no, that building is the Chicago Board and Trade building. It is another Art Deco building. Once again, deep darkened windows and long vertical lines. And that statue all the way up there is the Goddess series. From her, we get words like cerveza and cereal because she is the goddess of agriculture. Now coming up, let's focus on another building though. It's going to be popping up right in front of us. Onto the other side of 235 Van Buren. She is pretty in pink, flat and pink granite from Texas. Thank you, Texas. We're very grateful. We will never take it for granite. You see, I warned, and I tried. Now, 311 South Walker, if you look all the way up, she seems to be wearing a crown. Now, that crown was once upon a time about 1900 fluorescent lights. Those lights quickly proved to be an issue because the birds saw it and they were like, guys, I found the shortcut to the moon. Bruh, they flew around it and they flew around it and they flew around it until they got so exhausted celebration season again to help them out. Now let's talk about the King of our skyline. You'll see this black building that is not one singular tower, but 9 towers together in a big group. Look, you can't even see the top of it right now. This is the Sears Tower. Now the Sears Tower is 1,451 feet tall. That is 443 meters tall if you prefer the metric system. And guys, this is with our second anti-sway technology. Because again, remember, the taller the building is, the more the building will need to sway. This is an anti-sway technology called the bundle tube structure. That's what makes the Sears Tower right. But it still sways. Again, on a very windy day, the Sears Tower will sway about 18 inches or so. You can see water sloshing in the toilets. It's very disgusting, but also very true. Now, it is 1,451 feet tall at its roof. I am not counting the antennas. And you might be wondering, why not? You see, the Council on Tall Buildings measures the height of a building from its lowest entry point all the way up to its permanent spire. But the Sears doesn't have a permanent spire. It has a semi-permanent antenna, which means that it stands at 1,451 feet tall, aka 443 meters tall. If we were to count the antennas, it'd be 1,725 feet tall, 523 meters tall, making it the second tallest building in the United States of America. But guess what, guys? We don't count the antenna, so it stays at number 3. And you can hear how happy I am about that. Now, you might be a little bit confused. You might be like, Liam, you keep calling it Sears. I look it up online and it says Willis. Which is it? It was originally called the Sears Tower. Willis Insurance Company came in, they rented out 3 floors, and they leased the name for $1 million a year. Standards for them, though, their lease is up, so it could be called anything. But Chicagoans are stubborn. They will forever call it Sears, but I am a professional. It is spelled W-I-L-L-I-S. Pronounced Sears. Come on, guys. Now, the Sears Tower has a lot of cool things that you can do inside of it. One of those things being the sky deck. 5 glass boxes sticking to the side of the building on the 103rd floor. You can stand inside of these glass boxes and look down 1,353 feet below you to the city below. Or you can look to the horizon of 4 different state lines. Fun fact about Wolf Point, once upon a time it was a giant parking lot. Which is to say, all of these buildings over here to your left have been built in the last 10 years or so. All of those buildings, except over to your right, our good friend, the Nuveen. Now, the Nuveen is from 1983, is another contextualist building. You might be wondering, what exactly is it putting in context at this point? Well, the curve of the building goes along with the curve of Wolf Point. The windows are blue and are green. Not to the Chicago River below and the beautiful sky above. Again, contextualism, right? Now, this building might also seem familiar to all of you because it shows up in Ferris Bueller's Day Off. It is exactly where Ferris Bueller's dad used to work. And where he looked down at the parade below. Did he really look down at the parade below? It's called acting, guys. This is a river. Now, over to your right, it is in fact the end or the beginning of the Riverwalk. It really does depend on how you walk it and how you look at it, right? Because the Riverwalk does go from Wolf Point all the way to the lakefront, or from the lakefront all the way to Wolf Point. Depends on how you look at it and how you walk it, right? Now, let's focus over to our right coming up. We're going to be seeing a glass box. Hi, friends. Coming up, you're going to see a glass box filled with about 34 projectors. These projectors inside of these glass boxes project onto the facade of the Merchandise Mart. This is one of the only free and permanent art installations here in the United States. And it is called Art on the Mart. Now, Art on the Mart is a 30-minute free show. You can check out their website. I believe they start back up this weekend or like today. Go check it out, guys. And their times are like 7:30 p.m. They're very mindful about the weather. So go check them out. They rotate their artists monthly, and they also rotate their times depending on the weather. So go check them out. Again, 30-minute free show. Sometimes they have 1 showing, sometimes they have 2. Now, you can enjoy a 30-minute free show while also enjoying good food, good drinks on the Riverwalk. Don't ask me how you know they're good. I can't tell you. Now, more on the Riverwalk, though. The Riverwalk was envisioned all the way back in 1909 by Daniel Burnham. Then it was designed by a woman named Carol Ross Barney, and then it was developed and made a reality by us. This is known as the Riverwalk Theater. And you may be wondering, then what's the theater? Well, that's the audience, the river is the show. And you're on the river, which makes you the show, and that's your audience. Wave hello to your audience, everybody. Wave hello. Hi, everybody. Now coming up right in front of us and to our right, let's get back to buildings, shall we? There's a building that has a giant 55 all the way at the top. It looks unlike any of the other buildings that we have spoken about so far. It is very small, next to two very, very tall towers. This is 55 West Wacker. Now 55 West Wacker, again, another style of architecture we have not talked about yet, and this is brutalism. Rough and raw concrete on the exterior of the building, attempting to have a little bit more of a serious tone. A building that is going to come up right in front of us and to our right. There is a sign that says Smartin Steakhouse. No, we're not going to talk about food. No, that's me too. We're going to talk about the building that is right behind it. It is green. It kind of looks like a champagne bottle, and if you look all the way up, it has a gold top, very skinny gold top. That is a carbide and carbon building. Now the carbide and carbon building was rumored to be shaped like a champagne bottle because maybe they were designing the building after something that they couldn't top, because it's another Art Deco building, which means that the building was built during the Prohibition era. So maybe they just built it as we can't have champagne, so I'm gonna build this building look like a champagne bottle. But apparently, no, it came up as of recently that the designers of that building, the Burnham brothers, sons of Daniel Burnham, kind of going full circle here, designed the carbide and carbon building as a protest to the Prohibition. Now, if you're wondering if that gold all the way up there is real, the answer to that is yes. It is in fact 21 karat gold. If you're wondering, can I steal it? The answer to that is no, sadly. It is half as thick as saran wrap, so it probably crumble in your hands. Which is all another way of saying good luck. As I mentioned earlier, I'm also not bailing you out of jail if you get arrested by either climbing a building or stealing that gold. I know you that low. Good luck. Now, let's get back to the Trump Tower. Now, we spoke about its contextualist nature, but we didn't talk about the man who designed it. It's a man known as the tallest architect in the world, the native Chicagoan, known as Adrian Smith. And you might be wondering, how tall is he? Guys, he's a short king at 5'7". But he's known as the tallest architect in the world because he has designed some of the tallest. That design one. It is modeled after the Roman Cathedral in Normandy, France, right? The Notre Dame, which makes the building a French neo-Gothic revival building. It is now an apartment building. You can now live at the Chicago Tribune. Now let's talk about the Apple Store, the original trading post of Jean-Baptiste Monticello. Now, it is a postmodernist building. The roof of the building is a hint as to what the building is selling inside, and that is a giant iPad and or a MacBook. Talking about logos now, look all the way up right in front of you and to your left. There is in fact the Peacock logo. Now you might be thinking, the NBC Tower, and you'd be correct. You see, at this point of the tour you might look at me and you might go, is that not Art Deco, Leo? Deep dark inset windows and long vertical lines all making the building seem a lot taller than it actually is. Restrooms, if you have any trash, please make sure to feed your nearest trash can. I promise you they don't bite. Please make sure to have all personal belongings with you. That includes friends, families,